Welcome to episode 21 of Drew's College Athlete Spotlight here on this Sunday night. We are joined by a swimmer, yes, a Division One swimming athlete here, Ben Huynh of UW Milwaukee. Ben, how are you doing here on this Sunday night after that Packer victory, right?
Yeah, I'm doing good, even though I'm a Bears fan. We lost
Oh,
today,
a
but
Bears fan? Hold on. Oh yeah, tough game for the Chicago Bears, but Justin Fields, let me tell you, it's field season.
player of the week.
Also, big fan of Cole Kmet, so love to see what he's done there. Okay, enough football talk here. We're talking swimming. Swimming episode. We haven't had many of these, right? We had Gracie Streblo on in season 1 of the series here, a Division 1 swimmer at University of Nebraska Omaha, but today we're sticking in Division 1 for swimming, but we're going to go to the Horizon League. We're going to go head over there here at UW Milwaukee, right? The school I am at. Again, Ben is the guy who we'll be talking to today in the swimming world. And Ben, we're gonna start here by going back to the high school days. We're gonna be going, right. Lane Tech was the high school. We're gonna talk about, even your grade school, middle school, right, elementary, whatever. However, it was divided up. We'll be talking about that. And my first question goes, when did you start swimming? I guess, like, how did that go about?
So I started swimming in third grade, and it really came down to this thing where my parents were um, kind of like forcing me to do a sport. They were like, you have to do something active to make sure you stay in shape and stuff like that. So at the current or before third grade, it was baseball, and to me, it was kind of dumb that people are wearing like pants in the summer. So I really didn't like that. And then I gave swimming a try in third grade, and it really clicked. For first um, first like year or two, I wasn't that good, but then I kind of like um, developed a lot more friendships, and then it became more enjoyable to go to practice and kind of built my career.
Hold on, baseball being one of my favorite sports. Wow, I've
Yeah,
never heard that. You always hear the insult with baseball about like how long the games are. I've never heard
that too.
pants.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've never heard really pants in the summer being the complaint
dude,
against baseball.
I
But
was like, I was just sweating, and I didn't
it's
like it.
hot.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. It's definitely
sliding
not
around, and
ideal
yeah, and
conditions.
yeah, the game is long too. Like sometimes you're just not scoring at all, but
Well,
yeah.
those swimming meets get pretty humid inside. I mean, it gets pretty hot in there too, right? I mean, I know at
Yeah,
least
it
my
does.
experience.
I don't I don't notice it as much, I don't think, because you're just usually focused on your race, I guess. And then I'm always
And
trying to stay hydrated and all that stuff. But yeah, I think
and
does get hot in the stands and stuff.
more of a spectator thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
With swimming, but you mentioned right third grade kind of being the thing. Was that something you did through the school? Was it like a club thing? How did that go about?
So I swam at my local Y, um, and we just had a club team. Yeah, we didn't have a school team at the time. So
And school being like for middle school, did you even have a club team or a school team? No school team in middle school?
no, my
Okay.
middle school was or my elementary school was K through 8, so
Okay,
that's the
3-8.
same school.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sure. So, well, right, you mentioned the Y stuff. And then from there it was, we're doing it through grades 3 through 8, you mentioned, and I guess high school wise, right? Freshman year hits, and then were you on? Did you go right to the high school team then? Was that kind of the thing? Were you doing clubs still?
Yeah, so you swim year round. In high school season is only it's only like November to February really, or end of November to February, and then the rest of the year you swim club.
So that was how you were operating. And when middle school were you, or I guess really grade school with the K-8, right?
Grade
Were
school was just swim year round.
you year
Um,
round? Okay, so could you kind of walk me through how many hours? How many days a week practice? How did that go?
yeah, so usually get Sunday off, but Monday through Saturday there's usually practices, and just kind of like when you first start, it's just swimming for a couple hours a day. So like maybe like 5 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then a morning practice on Saturday. Um, as I kind of grew older, there became like lifting and dry land, which is like um, activities on land. Like I don't know how to explain it otherwise, but yeah, and that would be like an extra hour, and so it'd be like 5 to 8 or something like that, where the first hour is like lifting or dry land.
Okay, so it ended up expanding almost like going from 2 to 3 hours, you'd say,
Yeah.
throughout. I was wondering, I guess, with that club swimming team in grade school, how far were you guys traveling, like tournament wise, right? Were you competing? I mean, was it pretty far drives?
hmm I at least on that team, I think the furthest I traveled to was I think it was definitely Indianapolis or IUPUI. Um, but yeah, I don't remember traveling any further than that. Actually, I think I did one go to Ohio for a zones meet, but I think that was about it.
Yeah. Wisconsin at all? Did Wisconsin ever fall?
Yeah, we did. Actually, when I was growing up, the Illinois pools actually aren't as good as Wisconsin pools. So we used to come up to this pool called Recplex. It's in Pleasant Prairie, and that used to be where our championship meets were.
Oh, there you go, Wisconsin
Yeah,
connection there, right
yeah.
there. Now, of course, being in Milwaukee. Okay, so you at high school, you were participating on the club team as well, even with the high school team. What I'm wondering with that was, did you end up traveling farther? With those tournaments, did it end up being a more time, time commitment in high school, or how did the high school club was it? How did that differ?
Um, so you mean my high school team?
Yeah, well, even with the club, like you mentioned, you were
Oh, my
doing club
club
in the
team.
off season. How did
Yeah.
because with it being high school, I'm sure there was more time commitment for the club.
Mhm. So for my high school or my time in high school, I actually transferred out of the YMCA system because my head coach had left, and there's a lot of things going down with my pool and stuff like that, where they were shutting it down. So I switched to a different team. It was called NASA, which gave me a lot more opportunities to race like very far. Like the furthest we ever went to was Florida for NCSAs, and yeah, and yeah, I guess. Sorry, what was the first question? So, like, in
I
terms of
was
like
just wondering
traveling,
with
that's
club.
probably the
Yep, yeah, yeah.
furthest.
We're just
Yeah.
talking about the club high school experience. Because what was it? I have it was the NAJA, or is that something different?
Sorry, what is it? I'm
Oh,
not sure what NAJ is.
that's what I'm seeing up here.
Oh,
I guess.
okay. I think maybe it's supposed to be might be NASA. That's like that was my club team, in
Okay,
high
yeah, but
school. But yeah,
your club team, yeah, that's what we were touching on.
yeah,
Just wanted to travel. You hit on it, right with Florida. You end up going a lot
mhm,
more places, right? Being
yeah.
involved in a bigger club. Well, where was that based out of? I guess how far was that time wise?
Um, it was so it's actually at Northwestern. So for me,
Oh,
that was like it was like half an hour to 45-minute drive. So,
so were you like in Chicago? I guess I'm trying to, of course,
oh,
Chicago, be a big
yeah,
place.
so I'm in, the northwest side of Chicago, so I live in Edgebrook,
Okay.
and it's, I guess it's pretty close to Lincoln Park, Skokie area.
There we go. Yeah, just want to make sure we understand where you're coming from, right? What high school area too,
Yeah,
and then of course you were a swimmer all 4 years of high school. I guess touch on the high school season, and a two-time state qualifier in backstroke too in the 100 backstroke, and then I guess touching on that, would they don't give me years. Was that your junior and senior year for that?
yeah, it was my junior and senior year, I going into high school, it was a big thing in my life that, like, almost everybody above me expected me to make state, and it was really hard to make state, and my first 2 years, I didn't. My second year, I got or my sophomore year, I got really close, and I it tore me down for a little bit, and then I came back my junior year, and ended up making state, in the 100 back, and then, my senior year, I ended up making it again, so
So awesome experience there, right? Making state both those years. Also, right, a four-time team MVP in high school, and then the team captain for 2 years. Where were those 2 years? I'm gonna guess again, junior and senior year, right?
it was my junior and senior year, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and then I want to hit on the point, right? So Swimming in high school, right? I mean, you mentioned the time commitment. You mentioned some strength training, correct? When did that start playing in effect?
Really like eighth grade,
Eighth grade. Okay,
probably high school.
gotcha. I was wondering because not often you see some swim teams, right, working in the weight room necessarily until college, even. That's something that might not be all right there, in high school or with the school season as well. But with the you know going from the high school to college transition, I guess. Were you thinking of competing at the next level? I guess, like, was there ever that moment, that you were like, "Hey, I wanna compete at the next level," for swimming? Hey, Ben, you there? You there? Hey, Ben.
Hello?
Hey, there we are. We got
Oh,
you, Ben,
sorry.
here. Alright,
Dude,
you're all good.
my AirPods said 62%, then they just
They
disconnected
lied to
and they
you.
died.
All good.
So sorry, my
Ben
bad.
is back here. All right, so we're gonna go right from where we left off here. Apologize for that little delay. So we're touching on, right, Ben. I'm looking at, from high school to college, right? Did you have that moment, in high school, whether it was the club season, the high school season, that hey, I want to compete at the next level. I want to compete at the Division 1 level. Furthermore.
Mhm. So my senior year, um, I guess I noticed in high school, like usually every season I drop a second. Um, and um, my senior year, there's this big meet called sectionals that qualifies you for state basically, and that's pretty much your what's known as a taper meet. And I didn't drop that much time, and I was just kind of like thinking about it, and I didn't know if I wanted to say goodbye to the sport yet because I was like, well, maybe I should just focus on school, focus on a degree, and stuff like that. But I ended up swimming at NCSA's, and um, I think it was like prelims in the morning. I ended up doing like pretty mediocre, like a pretty average. I ended up time trialing my 100 back again later that day and got a best time, like over a second. And so I was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm ready to say goodbye. Like I still want to keep grinding and, you know, just keep improving myself.
So then going to like the recruitment process, right? I guess, can we talk about some of the schools that reached out, some schools you were interested in, and kind of how that process go?
Yeah. So there was a bunch of schools that reached out to me kind of over the process. So I actually kind of committed late. But one of the schools that I remember reached out was Grinnell. Granted, it was like 4 years ago. I really was kind of like a long time ago for me. So I don't really remember all of the recruitment interactions, but that was one of them. And I think the most important thing to me as well was making sure that it had a major that I wanted to do. Um,
Okay, yeah. Was there
yeah.
any or do you know any like the bigger schools? Any other Was there any other Division 1 ones, or was
I didn't really like have like Big Ten schools. Like I wasn't that good at swimming or anything like that in
I was
terms of
wondering like
recruitment.
Horizon
Oh,
League or
no, I didn't really talk to, that many Horizon League schools, actually. I guess
okay,
the other one was UIC, but UIC is now out of our conference, so, but
yeah.
yeah, that was pretty much the only one.
So okay, Milwaukee. What stood out with them then?
So I liked the city setting, a lot, and then I also thought the team atmosphere was, pretty good, and just inviting and welcoming. I think that everyone like had a friendly face, and I just thought it would be somewhere that I would enjoy being. And then, of course, like I think a lot of the schools that I was trying to swim for didn't specifically have computer engineering, so that was another thing I was really like excited about. And then I also think the coaches are like I do like the coaches a lot. So
Perfect. So, end up being a fit, right? When we talk about academics here, right? You hit on it perfectly, right? Certainly a must looking at the schools here. And then of you mentioned, right, coaching, the team atmosphere, team chemistry, all the great things, right, in Milwaukee stood out there for you. And yeah, you're in year 4 here last year
yeah,
as a Panther. Time flies, man. And freshman year, we're gonna go back a little into the archives. You ready?
yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through it. Let's go. Let's take you back, Ben. Freshman year, your first meet, right? Can you explain to me, how you felt, the difference? At least was there like a huge difference from like high school to college in terms of like, is it longer? Is there, walk us through it.
Um, so it was really weird my freshman year because as a swimmer, most of the time during the season, you are not swimming best times. Um, you actually like only probably swim the best time towards the end of the season, and that's because you're tapered, you're shaved, you have a what's called a tech suit. That's like a special suit you race in, basically. Um, but when I started swimming my freshman year, I was just swimming like out of my mind. Like I don't know why I was dropping so much time. I was swimming way faster than like I was swimming close to my best time, basically, and it was kind of insane. So
Yeah, your debut October 11th. It was at Oakland, is what I see. Is that true?
we usually have a inter squad meet, but I guess that doesn't really count because inter
Yeah.
squad's like versing each other. But it
Your
probably
first
was at Oakland.
official, they gave me Oakland October 11th. He placed third in the 100 back with a 53.12 and then fourth in the 200 back. So,
Yeah, it was a long drive. I actually remember that. It was a long drive because yeah, it was Oakland's all the way in Michigan. So we had Oakland into Grand Valley, and at Grand Valley,
yep.
Yeah, at Grand Valley, that was a long day. It wasn't the best pool, but yeah, it was just it was a long trip too.
With your times improving, you like a lot you mentioned. Was there like were practices just going crazy? Was the training just a step up? What would you credit to make the times go where they went?
I think it was like we were doing a lot more sprinting. Like we did this thing called stand-ups, where you just get up on the block and you race like your teammates and stuff. I think that was it. The first time I did a stand-up, I felt like I was gonna throw up. I think like it was just it was like very intense, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know how people just get up and race. Then I think I felt like I got used to it almost. And then and then it's just helped me get better and better.
Yeah, that's a big thing with college athletes, right? Talking about on this podcast, the big one always I like to mention though is cross country. The cross country, you go from the 5K like to the 8K, I believe it is. It's
Yeah,
the transformation, or you're just going from that in high school to college is just a whole different animal. So,
yeah,
I always love I always hear stories, right, of how it is that high school to college transition, and it sounds like you had a pretty good one. Sounds like very
yeah.
successful for you.
Actually, I think I even remember more like because I was kind of talking about how my times like, or I didn't get like deep or Big Ten offers. Like my times coming into college were not that great in my opinion. Like I specialized in backstroke, but I really was like, when I get into college, I'm gonna have this mindset where I'm gonna keep trying to get better and better every day, and I really want to hit like the set goal time basically. So
Sure, yeah, and we see you're working you're doing more than just back. You're doing like the free stroke. You're doing
mhm.
you were doing other things other than back, right? So see that
Yep.
versatility come into play there, and I guess the COVID shortened season I want to talk about. So 2020, 2021 is what I have here. It says it was
Yeah,
COVID shortened. Was that really the one? Like, Or was it more your freshman year that got COVID shortened?
No, it was my sophomore year because COVID happened in like March of so
Hmm.
2020.
Yep.
Yeah, so the season was over by then. Our season kind of ends in February. Um, so yeah, so in March we kind of got sent back home. And so like I said, how swimming is year round, I didn't get to swim like at all. And so got to the point where I was just working. I was actually working at a hospital, just COVID screening and working like 11 to 7. Um, so it was a long shift, but yeah, I was just working a lot. And then when I ended up coming back, I was really out of shape.
Yeah. Like we're because again the pools weren't open. That's why I'm wondering. Like, what were others like? What could you have done? Right. I mean, was there? Did they have training programs for you? I guess what was the game plan?
I think there was like dry land exercise. I don't know if it was weird because like in Chicago, everything was closed,
Yeah.
and it was to the point where like meets were not being run and stuff like that. And I think I used to remember like people like were recording people swimming fast times and just like that was it. But yeah, we didn't have practice, we didn't have anything, and it was just kind of over. Like I was almost like, man, am I ever gonna swim again?
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
this is
there were a
so.
lot of questions. It was right? I mean, we talked about it, unheard times. I mean, right? Athletes, some athletes I've had on, they were actually in high school when it happened. It was more of
Mhm.
like their junior, senior year of high school. So we've touched on that, or even sophomore year, right? But I guess what I'm wondering is, you mentioned coming back, it was kind of tough, and because you came back, did it end up being late 2020, like did it end up being 2021 to 2022, or how did that work? I guess I'm
No, so we came back in the fall because I think the dorms opened up, and then we still
yep.
had school, and then so technically we still had training. Our season, like in college, is really fall to February, and then everything else is kind of like off season. But you still train like a little bit. It's just not as intense, and there's not meets in the off season. But
Okay. That makes more sense for me.
mhm.
So then coming back, we'll go to 2021 to 2022. We'll go to then your junior year, right? I mean, that COVID year was kind of
Yeah.
it's
Oh, to be
tough.
honest, I had my best times, but yeah, it was in the COVID year. But it was it
Yeah.
was weird because it was shortened, and we used to like so if someone had COVID, we would have to isolate um, and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I ended up some of my best times, and it was technically the season got extended out to April, and but yeah, so
You were able to get those times. You were able to regain right that strength that
mhm.
what you had back over that time. So going your junior year, then right, we saw the 100 backstroke, 200 backstroke in the Horizon League Championship. Yeah, right. Was that your first time swimming in the Horizon League Championship?
So I swam in the Horizon League. Um, During the COVID year, but I don't know if it says that, but yeah. So I swam then, and so yeah, my second time wasn't at my junior year. So
Okay, yeah. And then that was in the 100 and 200 backstroke. Did you end up doing more of the 50 free or?
I did swim it. The 50 free for me is kind of like um it's like a warm-up event almost. Like yeah, so like on Thursday, there's only a certain amount of events per day. Um and yeah, the 50 free just kind of helps me warm up and get used to the meet and just kind of get the jitters out and get ready to swim the Friday and Saturday.
Gotcha. And then I see here your season best 200 back time, right, of 156.06 at the IUPUI House of Champions Invitational. And just to, go back, right? I mean, you ended up swimming at IUPUI in your grade school days, right? So it's kind of like a
Yeah,
nice little, crazy how it works,
yeah.
right? Swim there and you get your season best time there last year.
Still the same pool somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, you have some familiarity with that pool, and of course, being named then to the Horizon League Academic Honor Roll as well. I forgot to mention those for the college years. I want to touch on here Ben, the Horizon League Student Athlete Advisory Committee. And what I know here, or what I've see here is you are one of the 2 representatives for UW Milwaukee, right? Is that correct? Could you
Kendall's the other one. She's on UWM. She's on the women's basketball team. So
could you touch on kind of, what you guys do in this committee? Like, what are the goals? What does the role entail?
yeah, so some of the responsibilities of the role, actually, so we meet with other SAC members from other schools. So like in the Horizon League, so for example, like our accountability partners, Oakland, UIC used to be a part of this committee, and we would just discuss like what we're doing in our like school to help the community. And so for example, one of the opportunities we do is the Green Bandana Project. And so we shared that with the Horizon League that we were doing that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, of course, the great meaning behind it, and of course, discussing with student athletes about goals. I wanted to touch on with it as well. With name, image, likeness, right? This is something. Of course, it's changed over your time in high school or in college, and now, right, you being a senior, being on this committee, is that something that is being discussed upon as well?
Yeah, a lot of there's a lot more opportunities. There's this app now, Open Doors, that gives a lot more student athletes the opportunity to present themselves as a student athlete almost and kind of like sell themselves off. And it's a good opportunity for businesses to reach out to, sell their product and stuff like that.
Of course. So love the work, right, being done by that committee, and I'm glad you were part of it. Be a voice, right, for UW Milwaukee. I want to touch on here, of course, the 2022 to 2023 men's swimming and diving schedule here before we wrap up. And I want to go to it, right? You mentioned the season's a long one. It really is. It goes again from early October is when the inter squad meets start to, if with the Horizon League championships mid to late February. It's
So the first meet is in October, but by then we are swimming. We've swum like a month before that. We really start in September. So practice start in September, and just grinding through until February.
And I want to touch on you get the win at Wheaton, right? I see November 4th here that happened. Get that win. But November 17th, you make it back to IUPUI. Is this your last time at IUPUI?
It might be. So it kind of depends. This is what's called our midseason meet, and our midseason meet really kind of determines who's making it to Horizon League, which is the championships at the end of the season. Unfortunately, we can only take, I think it's 18 people on the roster. But so if I do not swim well at midseason, I'm not really sure if I will make it to the end of the season championship. So this upcoming meet is pretty important, basically.
Well, we wish you the best. You're going to do great, Ben. And it's at a great place, right? Some good familiarity. We talked about it already at IUPUI. But then also you're at Chicago, January 14th. So you get that little break. You get like a month and a half break,
Yeah. So in that month and a half, we actually go to Florida for our training trip. And so I get to spend like a couple weeks at home, but I'll still be training.
Of course.
And then we travel to Florida, Fort Lauderdale, and then right when we come back, I guess we go to UOC or University of Chicago, and I think we have a couple more meets before Horizon League champs.
I got them for you right here, January 28th. You face Green Bay for Senior Day, and they're gonna honor you there at the K. Then they're in Milwaukee, and then at St. Thomas, February 3rd is where you'll be going. You'll be going to Minnesota, and then from St. Paul, Minnesota, you go to Stevens Point, Wisconsin. In the middle of the state, you'll end up there February 4th, Friday, Saturday trip.
Yeah, I've Sorry, what was the place before Stevens Point?
St. Thomas, February 3rd.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
Friday.
I've never been to St. Thomas, but I have been to Stevens Point. I think it was it must have been my freshman year, so it's been a while since
Nice
I've
little
been
round
there.
trip, right?
Yeah,
Full circle. There you go. And then the Horizon League Championships always in Indianapolis, right? That's kind of the set place for swimming.
yeah.
So
They just signed a deal with the Horizon League because they have a lot of space in their pool deck, like,
perfect.
and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be there for the next couple of years, at least.
Awesome. So that rounds out the swimming season. And Ben, here before we wrap up, I want to touch on some academics, some career goals stuff here. So you mentioned the major being computer engineering, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that, what's the long-term career goal with that?
Long-term career wise, I would like to kind of join the medical space and kind of like, I guess I'm not 100% sure what I would want to do, like, but I do know I kind of want to help them because before I decided on computer engineering, I was contemplating becoming a chiropractor. Um, and I kind of like saw that I had like real skills in like analyzing algorithms and kind of like recognizing patterns and stuff like that. Um, so I decided to pick up computer engineering, and then I really like my high school really promoted STEM. So I was able to do a lot of stuff like 3D printing, laser cutting, 3D milling. We also like designed an ALU and stuff like that. It was really cool, and built like a CTA bus tracker app. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff we did in high school that really kind of like pushed me towards like I really think that like this is something I really enjoy doing, and I can see myself doing it in the future.
Yeah, you've had some great experiences. Sounds like you're going to build off them, do even greater things here, Ben. And again, I wish you the best academically and athletically. So thank you again for coming on here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man.
Of course, it was a great time, Ben. And yeah, that'll wrap it up here at Drew Sports Crew is where you can find the podcast, Instagram, Twitter, and then Drew Sports Crew on the Facebook and YouTube. So that's where you'll find it all there. And that wraps it up for Ben and myself, Drew Skyberg, here on this Sunday night. Thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Drew's Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.